Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the Horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space research vessel, watching the endless expanse of stars stretch before her. 20 years of space exploration had hardened her resolve, but never dampened her wonder at the universe's mysteries. The ship's gentle hum was interrupted by an urgent alert from the communications array. "Commander," Lieutenant James Morgan's voice cracked with excitement over the intercom. "We're picking up an unusual signal. It's like nothing we've ever encountered before." Elena's boots echoed against the metal floor as she strode to the bridge. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, but there was an electric tension in the air. On the main display, a pulsing beacon indicated the signal's source, a small asteroid belt in an uncharted sector. "Analysis," Elena demanded, studying the readings. Dr. Marcus Wung, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from his station, his dark eyes wide with amazement. "It's definitely artificial, Commander. The pattern suggests advanced technology, but there's something else, something organic about it." The Horizon approached the signal's origin cautiously. As they drew closer, their sensors revealed a crashed vessel, its sleek crystalline hull partially embedded in a massive asteroid. The design was entirely alien, yet there was an elegant beauty to its organic curves. "Life signs?" Elena asked, her hand unconsciously touching the worn medallion at her neck, a reminder of her own loss, her daughter's death in the Mars colony disaster. "Faint but present," Marcus responded. "Multiple signatures, small, possibly juvenile." Elena's decision was immediate. "Prep the rescue team. Full containment protocols, but we move fast." The rescue operation revealed a nightmare. The alien ship had been attacked, its adult crew killed by weapons that left distinctive energy burns. But in a protected central chamber, they found them 5 alien cubs, each no larger than a human child, their iridescent scales shifting colors with their breathing. "They're remarkable," Marcus whispered, scanning the creatures. "Their biology suggests an incredibly advanced species, but these are definitely children, orphans now." Elena watched as the medical team carefully transferred the cubs to their ship's medical bay. Their bodies were covered in delicate scales that seemed to shift between blues and greens, with large, intelligent eyes that followed the humans' movements. The ship's AI translated fragments of the alien vessel's logs. The cub species, the Luminar, were being hunted by the Drachnid Empire, an aggressive race that sought to harvest their unique biological capabilities. The adult Luminars had sacrificed themselves to hide their children, hoping someone would find them. As Elena watched the cubs being treated, an alert blared through the ship. Lieutenant Morgan's voice was tense. "Commander, multiple ships just dropped out of FTL. Energy signatures match the weapons used on the alien vessel." Elena's jaw tightened as she looked at the cubs. They had awakened and were watching her with those huge, knowing eyes. One reached out a small, scaled hand toward her. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice steel. "And get me Earth Command, tell them we've just inherited a war." The Drachnid ships approached, their massive forms blotting out the stars. A transmission cut through their comms. "Human vessel, you have something that belongs to us. Surrender the Luminar specimens or be destroyed." Elena stood on her bridge, memories of her lost daughter mixing with the image of those 5 innocent cubs. Her crew waited for her response, and in that moment she felt the full weight of the choice before her. But it wasn't really a choice at all. "Lieutenant Morgan, charge weapons," she commanded. "Dr. Wung, get those cubs to the secure medical bay." She opened a channel to the Drachnid ships. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Space Ship Horizon. Those specimens are children under my protection. If you want them—" She paused, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You'll have to go through us first." The Drachnid commander's laughter rumbled through the comm. "You would risk war to protect alien spawn." Elena's response was immediate and firm. "We would risk everything to protect children, and you're about to learn why humanity has survived every catastrophe we've ever faced. We don't know how to give up, and we absolutely don't know how to surrender when innocent lives are at stake." Behind her, the cubs watched through the medical bay window. their scales now glowing with a soft, hopeful light. The Horizon's weapons came online, and Elena Vasquez prepared to show the galaxy exactly what human wrath looked like when children needed protecting. The S-Horizon burst through Earth's atmosphere like a meteor, plasma trails streaming behind its hull. In the secure medical bay, the 5 Luminar cubs huddled together, their scales shifting between anxious purples and deep blues. The Drachnid fleet had backed off after the initial confrontation, but Elena knew better than to believe they'd given up. Earth's orbital defense platform came into view, its massive form a testament to humanity's determination to protect their home. Admiral Thaddeus Chen waited in the main briefing room, his weathered face grave as Elena's team presented their findings. "So you've brought us into an interstellar conflict," he said, studying the holographic display of the Luminar cubs, "and made humanity the guardians of another species' children." Dr. Wang stepped forward, excitement barely contained in his voice. "Admiral, these cubs aren't just refugees. Their species, the Luminar, they're incredible. Their biological capabilities could revolutionize our understanding of everything. Their scales don't just change color, they manipulate energy at a quantum level." "Which is exactly why the Drachnids want them," Elena interjected. "They plan to experiment on them, weaponize their abilities. They've already wiped out most of the adult Luminars." The Admiral's eyes narrowed, and now Earth is their last hope. A young lieutenant burst into the room. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures. Multiple Drachnid scout ships just appeared in the Kuiper belt." Elena felt her heart rate spike. They'd followed them home. In the medical bay, Elena found herself drawn to the cubs. The smallest one, whom the medical team had started calling Nova, approached the containment field separating them. Its scales rippled with gentle gold patterns. Trust, Dr. Wang had theorized. Nova pressed its small hand against the field. Images suddenly flooded Elena's mind. A peaceful world of crystal spires, a civilization in harmony with the quantum fabric of space itself. Then darkness, fire, the Drachnid's invasion. The cubs' parents, using their last moments to share their species' knowledge with their children before hiding them away. Elena gasped as the connection broke. "They're not just refugees," she whispered. "They're their civilization's legacy." Admiral Chen authorized the cubs' transfer to Sanctuary Base Alpha, a classified facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Elena's crew would remain their primary guardians, with Dr. Wang leading a team to understand and protect their unique biology. The base thrummed with activity as Earth prepared for the inevitable Drachnid response. But amid the military preparations, something extraordinary was happening. The cubs were learning, growing, and beginning to trust. Dr. Wang worked tirelessly to decode the knowledge within their genetic memory. "It's extraordinary," he reported one evening. "Their species evolved to be living quantum computers. The Drachnids don't just want weapons, they want to unlock the secrets of reality itself." Elena watched as Nova and the others played in their specialized habitat, using their abilities to create stunning displays of light and energy. They were children, yes, but children who carried the wisdom of eons in their very DNA. Lieutenant Morgan interrupted her reverie. "Commander, you need to see this." He pulled up a tactical display showing Drachnid fleet movements. They weren't just sending scouts anymore. They were amassing an invasion force. "How long?" Elena asked, her voice tight. 3 days, maybe 4. They're coming with everything they have." Elena looked back at the cubs, now sleeping peacefully in their habitat. Nova's scales pulsed gently with dreams of its lost home. In just a few weeks, these alien children had awakened something profound in their human guardians, a fierce, primal need to protect not just their innocence, but the incredible potential they represented. She touched her medallion again, thinking of her daughter. Some wounds never healed, but they could drive you to prevent others from suffering the same loss. "Begin Operation Starcradle," she ordered. "Full mobilization of the Earth Defense Fleet, and get me everything we have on Drachnid battle tactics." "They'll expect us to hide the cubs," Admiral Chen said from the doorway, "to protect them through secrecy and evasion." Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. Then let's do what humanity does best, surprise them. Dr. Wang, how soon can you adapt Luminar quantum technologies to our defense systems? The scientist's eyes widened. You want to, but that would mean. We're not just going to hide these children, Alina declared. We're going to help them take back their future, and if the Drachnids want a war. She watched as Nova's scales flickered with patterns that looked remarkably like Earth's constellations. We'll show them why humanity has always been at its strongest when protecting those who can't protect themselves. In their habitat, the cubs stirred, their scales beginning to pulse with a new color, a deep, determined red that matched the fire in their guardians' hearts. The coming battle would be unlike anything Earth had faced, but as Alina watched humans and Luminars working together, she knew they had already won the most important victory. They had given these children something their enemies could never understand: hope. The Drachnid assault began not with weapons, but with words. Their transmission reached every screen on Earth simultaneously, bypassing all security protocols. Supreme Commander Vexther's scaled face filled the displays, his serpentine features twisted in what passed for a smile among his kind. "People of Earth," he hissed, "your noble defense of the Luminar offspring is admirable but misguided. We seek only to unlock their genetic potential for the good of all species. Surrender them, and we guarantee your world's safety." In Sanctuary Base Alpha, Alina watched the cubs' reaction to Vexther's voice. All 5 of them had pressed together, their scales shifting to deep obsidian, a color Dr. Wang had never seen before. Nova, however, separated from the group and approached the screen, its scales beginning to pulse with complex patterns. Dr. Wang's instruments went wild. "Commander, Nova is accessing quantum frequencies we didn't even know existed. It's trying to show us something." The air itself seemed to crystallize as Nova projected a memory, not of its own experience, but of its parents' final moments. The Drachnids hadn't just killed the adult Luminars, they had harvested them, using their living bodies to power terrible weapons. The cubs carried not just their species' knowledge, but the trauma of their civilization's systematic destruction. Alina's hands clenched into fists. Send a response to Vexther, 2 words only: never again. The next 48 hours transformed Earth's orbital space into a fortress. The horizon, retrofitted with prototype quantum shields derived from Luminar technology, took its position as flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Dr. Wang worked frantically with his team, integrating the cubs' voluntary genetic insights into Earth's defensive systems. "They're not just letting us protect them," he explained to Alina as Nova guided his hand through a complex equation. "They're teaching us to evolve. The Drachnids wanted to steal their power, we're being given it freely." Lieutenant Morgan interrupted with urgent news. "Commander, the Drachnid fleet just dropped out of FTL, but something's wrong. Their formation. It's like nothing we've ever seen." The enemy ships moved like a living organism, thousands of vessels flowing through space in impossible patterns. At their center, a massive dreadnought pulsed with stolen Luminar energy, the horrible truth of what happened to Nova's parents made manifest in metal and malice. "They've mastered some level of Luminar tech," Alina realized, "but they don't understand it. They're brute-forcing it, causing pain with every use." In their habitat, the cubs began to sing. It wasn't sound, but pure energy, resonating through quantum fields. The human defenders felt it in their bones, in their souls, a melody of defiance, of protection, of hope. Dr. Wang burst into the command center. "Commander, the cubs, they're not just showing us their technology, they're sharing their very evolution. Our quantum shields aren't just copying their abilities, they're growing, adapting, becoming something new. Something neither human nor Luminar, but both." Alina watched as the horizon's shields began to shimmer with the same iridescent patterns as the cubs' scales. Across the fleet, other ships reported similar phenomena. Humanity's technology was evolving before their eyes, guided by the trust of 5 alien children. Vexther's voice crackled through the comms again. "You cannot hope to comprehend the power you're dealing with. We have spent centuries mastering Luminar flesh. Your primitive understanding will be your doom." Nova pressed its hand against its habitat's wall, looking directly at Alina. In that moment, she understood. The Drachnids had spent centuries trying to steal and corrupt Luminar power. But in just weeks, humanity had done something they never could. They had earned it. All ships battle formation Delta, Elena commanded. Dr. Wang, initiate quantum resonance protocols. Let's show them the difference between stealing power and being worthy of it. The Cubs' song reached a crescendo as the Drachnid fleet engaged. Their massive dreadnought fired its main weapon, a beam of corrupted luminar energy that should have annihilated everything in its path. But when it struck the horizon's shields, something extraordinary happened. The energy didn't just disperse, it transformed. The shields absorbed it, purified it, and sent it coursing through the entire human fleet. Every ship's systems surged with new power, guided by the Cubs' song and humanity's unwavering determination to protect. Impossible, Vexther's rage echoed through space. You cannot wield this power, you are not worthy. Elena stood on her bridge, feeling Nova's presence in her mind, the trust of all 5 Cubs flowing through her crew. We're not wielding it, she replied calmly. We're sharing it, and that's something you will never understand. The battle was about to begin in earnest, and as human and luminar power flowed together, Elena realized they weren't just fighting to protect 5 alien children anymore. They were fighting to prove that evolution itself favored those who chose to protect rather than destroy. The Cubs' scales blazed with brilliant light, and humanity prepared to show the galaxy exactly what that truth meant. Space erupted into a symphony of light and energy as the 2 fleets clashed. The Drachnid ships moved like a swarm of predators, their weapons leaving trails of corrupted luminar energy across the void. But the Earth Defense Fleet responded with an elegance that defied conventional warfare, their quantum shields pulsing in harmony with the Cubs' song. On the horizon's bridge, Elena watched as Lieutenant Morgan coordinated their forces with unprecedented precision. The neural link between the Cubs and the human fleet had transformed their tactics. They weren't just fighting, they were dancing through spacetime itself. Multiple Drachnid destroyers attempting to flank our position, Morgan reported, his hands flying over the tactical display. But before he could finish, the fleet had already responded, moving as one organism to counter the threat. Dr. Wang's voice crackled through the comm. Commander, you need to see this. The Cubs. They're evolving our technology faster than we can track. The quantum resonance is reaching levels we thought impossible. In their habitat, the 5 Cubs had formed a perfect circle, their scales blazing with light that seemed to bend reality around them. Nova, at the center, reached out through their shared consciousness to show Elena something extraordinary. The Luminar weren't just capable of manipulating quantum energy. They were quantum energy, consciousness given form through evolutionary grace. And now they were sharing that evolution with humanity, not as a weapon, but as a gift. Vexther's dreadnought is powering up their primary weapon, Morgan warned. Energy readings are off the scale. The massive Drachnid vessel's hull split open like a blooming flower of death, revealing a core of tortured luminar energy. The sight of it sent waves of grief and rage through the neural link. The Cubs, witnessing the horrific fate of their parents, transformed into an instrument of destruction. But something else flowed through the link as well, forgiveness, not for the Drachnids, but for the corrupted energy itself. The Cubs' song changed, becoming a lament of healing and restoration. All ships hold position, Elena commanded, understanding flowing through her mind. Let them fire. Commander, Morgan's voice shook with disbelief. Trust them, trust us. The dreadnought's weapon discharged, a beam of unimaginable power tearing through space toward Earth's defenders. But as it reached them, the Cubs' song reached its crescendo, and humanity's evolved quantum shields did something unprecedented. They didn't just absorb the energy, they began to heal it. The corrupted power flowed through the human fleet like water through a purifying filter, the Cubs' song extracting the pain and trauma the Drachnids had inflicted. Vexther's voice roared through the comms. What are you doing? Stop! That power belongs to us. No, Elena replied softly, watching as the purified energy began to flow back through space. It never did, and now it's going home. The restored luminar energy surged toward the Drachnid fleet like a tsunami of light. But instead of destroying their ships, it began to unravel the very modifications they had built upon stolen power. Weapons systems failed, neural networks collapsed, and the massive dreadnought's hull began to heal itself, rejecting the corruption forced upon it. Dr. Wang's laughter echoed through the horizon. It's brilliant. The Cubs aren't just fighting back, they're undoing centuries of Drachnid manipulation. They're showing us that true power isn't about destruction at all. The Drachnid fleet hung powerless in space, their ships stripped of the stolen technology they had relied upon for so long. Vexther's final transmission was barely more than a whisper. What? What are you? Elena stood on her bridge, feeling Nova's presence in her mind, the pride and gratitude of all 5 Cubs flowing through the neural link. Humanity hadn't just protected them. They had helped them reclaim their heritage and heal wounds centuries old. We are what you could have been, Elena replied. Guardians, not conquerors, and this is just the beginning. As the Drachnid fleet retreated in disarray, the Cubs' song transformed one final time. Through their shared connection, they showed humanity a vision of the future, not one of dominance or power, but of evolution guided by compassion, of strength found in the choice to protect rather than destroy. The battle was over, but Elena knew they had witnessed something far more significant than a military victory. In choosing to defend these alien children, humanity had been given the chance to become something greater than they had ever imagined. Nova's scales shimmered with patterns that looked like DNA spirals merging and growing into new forms. The next stage of both their species' evolution would be written together, not through conquest or experimentation, but through the simple, profound choice to protect those who needed protection. And somewhere in the quantum fields that connected them all, Elena felt her lost daughter's medallion pulse with a warmth that felt like pride. 1 year after the Battle of Earth's orbit, the Sanctuary Base Alpha had transformed. What began as a military fortress had evolved into humanity's first interspecies learning center. The 5 Luminar Cubs, no longer refugees but honored teachers, had grown both in size and wisdom. Elena stood in the new observation dome, watching Nova lead a class of human children through their first quantum resonance exercises. The young Luminar's scales rippled with gentle patterns of encouragement as small hands learned to touch the fabric of reality itself. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Dr. Wang joined her at the window, his research tablet displaying the latest evolutionary data. A year ago, we thought we were just protecting children. Instead, they showed us the next step in human evolution. The neural link that had once been a battle necessity had become something far more profound. Across Earth, millions of humans were learning to access their latent quantum abilities, guided by the Cubs' patient teaching. It wasn't just technology advancing, humanity itself was changing, growing into something that bridged the gap between physical and quantum existence. Lieutenant Morgan, now Captain Morgan, entered with urgent news. Commander, we're receiving transmissions from 3 new species. They've heard about what happened with the Drachnids. They're asking for sanctuary. Elena smiled, remembering Nova's words through their shared link. Protection calls to protection. The Cubs had known that by defending them, humanity would become a beacon for others in need of guardians. In the depths of space, the defeated Drachnid Empire was changing too. Without their stolen power, they had been forced to look inward, to face what centuries of conquest had cost them. Some of their younger members had even begun reaching out, seeking to learn the true way of quantum resonance. The Horizon, now permanently docked at the Sanctuary, had become a symbol. Its quantum-enhanced hull bore the marks of that first battle, but also displayed the new patterns that represented Earth's commitment to defending the defenseless throughout the galaxy. In her private quarters that evening, Elena held a quantum resonance session with Nova. Their minds met in the space between spaces, where thought became energy and energy became truth. We found more survivors, Nova communicated, its consciousness gentle against hers. Young ones hidden in distant sectors, the Drachnids didn't find them all. Elena felt her heart leap. The Cubs wouldn't be the last of their kind after all. We'll help you bring them home, she promised. but Nova's response carried an unexpected warmth. "We are home. Earth is where we learned that family isn't about species, it's about who chooses to stand and protect. The new ones will come here to learn as we learned, to teach as we teach." In the quantum field, Elena saw the truth of it. Earth hadn't just become a sanctuary for 5 alien cubs. It had become the birthplace of a new kind of civilization. One built not on conquest or competition, but on the fierce, unwavering commitment to protect those who needed protection. The other cubs joined their resonance, their combined consciousness showing Elena visions of the future. Human ships, their quantum shields glowing with luminar patterns, answering distress calls across the galaxy. New species learning to touch the quantum field, guided by human luminar teachers. The very evolution of consciousness itself, shaped by the simple choice that humanity had made in its moment of wrath, to defend rather than destroy. Dr. Wang's research had shown that the neural link was actually changing human DNA, not through force or manipulation, but through freely chosen connection. Future generations would be born with an inherent ability to touch the quantum field, to feel the call of those in need of protection.